An artist's skill is only as good as her or his lifetime. Unless the skill is passed on, the beauty of the artist cannot be expanded on in future generations.
When I say the word development, what images come to mind? Wells? Schools? New roads or donated clothing?
If development is just about projects, then like the artist's skill, the knowledge of that finished work isn't carried on to the next generation. It stops with the developer. The key is shifting our perspective away from projects and toward people and processes.
What makes a good artist? The best have apprentices. You've probably heard of Michelangelo, but have you heard of Domenico Ghirlandaio? Without him, there may have never been a painting on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. Far before his greatest paintings and sculptures, Michelangelo was an apprentice.
When we say that development needs to center around people and processes, we're saying that the work of community transformation requires us passing on the knowledge, attitudes, and practices we have learned to others.
The Apostle Paul writes that we are the masterpiece and workmanship of God. God is literally developing us through Jesus into expressions of his purposes for the whole world. So from God's perspective, development is the process of being his workmanship. But how does this work?
Back to Michelangelo. He sat under the teachings and practices of Ghirlandaio as an apprentice, to then become one of the most famous artists during the European Renaissance. Historically, one who sits under the teaching of another is called a disciple.
For those who follow Jesus, we are apprentices sitting under his teaching, learning to create beauty by restoring human relationships to God, to each other, to ourselves, and to the created world. And like Jesus, like the best artist, we're instructed to take what we've learned and pass it on to others.
Each generation invests in this work of transforming people and their communities to become all that God intends for them to be. And like good art, this takes time. It's a process to form a glob of clay into an ornate sculpture. But God is committed to his workmanship, shaping all of humanity in Jesus to be all that he intends.
Here's an example to help tie these two ideas of development and discipleship together.
There was a community where a man named Haruna lived. The local government had encouraged the creation of latrines to help in sanitation. Haruna chose not to build a latrine on his property.
Instead, Haruna's family used the nearby river to dispose of their wastes, wash their clothes, and water their cattle. When he came to Christ, Haruna's discipler observed this and its negative impact on his neighbors.
Is this a discipleship issue or a development issue?
The discipler answered these questions with a wholehearted yes. It is both spiritual.
Could Haruna really love his neighbor and live in a Christ-like manner if he's harming his neighbor and the environment?
And physical.
Haruna needs to know how to build a latrine, improve environmental sanitation, and keep from polluting the area and the river.
In real life and in scripture, there is no separation between the spiritual and the so-called secular. Both are created by God for his purposes under his lordship, as we, his workmanship, steward all things for his glory.
If discipleship is apprenticing others to be all of who Jesus is, and development is growing towards all that God intends, then we really cannot separate the two.
Both are about people. Both are about God's kingdom, inseparably together.